From Los Angeles, California, comes hip-hop artist and producer Kemo the Blaxican. Fresh off a tour in Europe, Kemo the Blaxican is known for his powerful fusion in hip-hop and Chicano culture. As a solo artist, he's delivered hit songs like No Que No, Just What You're Feeling, La Receta, and many more. In addition to his solo career, he's a founding member of the legendary group Delinquent Habits, who are known for timeless anthems like Tres Delincuentes, Lower East Side, Return of the Tres, and more. He's also collaborated with legends such as Sen Dog of Cypress Hill, Sig Jackin, God Forbid, Afro, and many more. And his music's been featured in major films, including Den of Thieves, Havoc, The Quiet Family, and more. Tune in to learn about his journey in music, his recent tour in Europe, and what he's got coming next at 4 o'clock LA, 7 o'clock New York. Let's bring him in. Hey.
There
Can
it
you hear
is.
me? Yes.
I'm trying to
So
see,
new.
make sure that we got the audio.
Yeah. We have everything. Peace,
Man,
Kimo. How's it going, my bro?
it's going real good, man. I'm digging the background. I see what you
Hey,
got
you
there.
know what I'm
What you got?
saying? It's like knowledge. It's like ideas.
I was like, man, I'm gonna try to get my background real cool with knowledge. It's in there, but I'm like, I'm gonna set up right here with the music. But I love it, man. It reminds me of like a bunch of stacked cassettes and whatnot. But it's
Yeah.
books, right? It's books, right?
Yeah, brother. Yeah, it's
Yeah,
books.
right on, man. Yeah, man.
Yeah, bro.
You gotta keep growing, man, and feeding the knowledge, man. Keep on learning. You know what I mean?
Absolutely,
That's a
my
really
bro.
good thing. Right on, man. It's been a long time since we've chatted,
Connected.
brother. Yeah, man. Thanks for the invite.
Kimo, it's an honor to have you on the Cristopolis show to talk about your impressive career. You know, it spans decades at this point. Obviously, your solo work, so much work that you've done. You just got back from being on tour in Europe, but then obviously, you know, you broke through the industry with Delinquent Habits, an incredible career already. You know, I think people are interested in knowing what's kind of new with Kimo, right? So if you could talk to us about, you know, how the tour was in Germany and how, you know, you go back and forth all the time, but what was this most recent tour like?
Yeah, so the recent tour, I think you're speaking of the 3 days in Germany. I jumped on a short tour, little German 3 day, for me, 3 day event, which was probably a much longer tour for Cyprus, but opened up for Cypress Hill out in Germany for 3 shows. And it was a really good experience, man. I mean, like you mentioned, like I've been doing this for quite a while and I've had some opportunities. I've been on some big stages, but mostly, uh, this one here was a lot. It was significant in the way that it was some of the biggest stuff that I've done on the solo tip. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so that was a like a milestone of mine that I'll that I value. I also love it because it just came about organically. You know, a lot of people might wonder or think, hey, maybe this came about like, yo, homie, can I get on this tour with you or whatever? And this was actually just organic. It happened. I didn't tell the homies. I didn't tell my brothers that, I didn't tell Sin. I didn't tell nobody that I was going to be coming out until maybe like 2 days before. And that's just kind of how I like to operate. You know what I mean? I don't know, man. I'm just kind of like, I got to earn my keep. You know what I mean? And so getting on that bill was an honor. And it was meaningful to me to be able to have done it just from just sheer hard work, I would think. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, but the experience was dope, man. It was, you know, I've seen them type of crowds before, them sizes, you know what I mean, but never opening up for Cypress. So
Yeah.
it was a very beautiful kind of nice, eclectic crowd, but definitely a crowd that's familiar with hip hop, a crowd that's familiar with, maybe some delinquent music, and obviously, a Cypress crowd. Some of those fans in there might be familiar with, my music a little bit. So that was nice.
Yeah. No, my bro, you're so humble. Your discography and your talent and your career is tremendous. You're known. You're known, my bro. You're known, and you know, and it's really interesting to me because you know, being here in LA, um, you know, there's so many Latino, so much Latino culture, right? But what's interesting is that exists in places like Germany also. So there's the people who love it that aren't Latino, but there are the people who are the children of immigrants there also. So that's an interesting phenomenon that artists like yourself and Cypress Hill kind of have this diaspora. of people of the children of immigrants or immigrants that speak Spanish, that have that culture,
Mhm.
and that are all over not only Latin America but Europe also.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, man. There's an enormous Latino culture in Europe, obviously. I mean, the Spanish language obviously is gonna be there. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Obviously, right? But I can remember a time when I never had gotten out of, my own little city, and so visiting Europe for the first time, particularly in Germany at the time, I was thrown back. I was really surprised to know how many Mexicanos were in Germany. And I came back to kind of did a little more research and just found out that there was a lot of Mexicanos that would migrate directly from Mexico into Germany, which
Yeah.
I didn't really know. I mean, really at that time, even when I went out there, even New York wasn't as populated with Mexicanos as it is now. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? So I didn't really know and understand that, it was quite like that in Germany. This was we're talking like '96, at the time.
Yeah.
But everywhere we go, that Latino element comes out to support, whether it be Mexicano, Dominicanos, Cubano, all different types, man. Everybody comes
Yeah.
out, and it's a beautiful thing, man. And then of course the language just kind of transcends borders. You know what I mean? So that's another thing. And you know how it is in LA, right? Like as soon as you start throwing some Spanish around, all of a sudden it's like, oh, wait, wait, wait. Like there's this other connection that all of a sudden surfaces, and you're like, damn, that's a trip. How the power of just that language alone can do that. You know what I'm saying? Not to mention like a Latino brotherhood, that also starts to, surface, right, and show itself, and you're like, damn, that's interesting. So it's global like that, man.
Yeah.
Really
Yeah.
cool.
That's a real interesting thing that you're talking about. Like there's English, just interacting with people, and then there's like that unifying Latin culture, Spanish language, our ancestors, similar experiences,
Mhm.
our American experience, right? That's
Yeah,
a
yeah.
that's an interesting thing.
There's definitely those type of connections there. And the beautiful thing though is like you look at the crowd and you like, in the end, it's just the music that brought everyone together. And at that point, it's not just this nationality or this nationality, or it's in the end you're like, okay, I got these hip hop fans in front of me. They love good music. They're here for a good experience, and that's first and foremost that you're trying to bring out. But there are times where you definitely, that pride kicks in, and you want to be like, yo, you know what I mean? You want to, especially throughout my career, there's been several opportunities and time periods that require more expression, so to speak. But in the end, man, it's just good music. So it was a great tour. Prior to that, I was going out there. I had been out there in March, and I've been also touring out with my friends from Jaya the Cat, which is a completely different genre. And they're more, I guess you could get like like a ska reggae type band. And for me, that was a good experience too. It has been to going to some of the same countries and same venues that I visited before. Only this fan base did not know me at all, right? Like they didn't know me at all, and I felt like it was a moment of discovery for me and for them all over again. Like I had never, they didn't know me, they didn't know DH, they didn't know anything that I had done in the past, and so I got that opportunity to kind of almost, like as you said, pay my dues all over again, which I love because it's different as I go out and do the solo gigs. It's
Yeah.
a different experience, you know what I mean? And shout out to Reside One, who was out on the road with me on some of those gigs, both of those times that I've been out there last year and this year. And then DJ Ozo was out with me on the Cypress gigs. And so, again, man, this is a little bit of not a new experience, but it's just something I haven't been able to do in a long time. I've been doing the solo record since 2003.
Yeah.
Not something that I, often get to support on a live gig type thing.
Yeah.
Um, Dabble in it when there was time, jump in it, jump back out of it. So it's always evolving. I keep on kind of learning how to master that. I'm always just learning anyway, whether it be in the studio and writing new songs, or how I'm going to attack the live performance, now with like virtually one mic, just going like, let me do this way.
Yeah. You just mentioned when you were performing with the ska group. How did that connection come about? And when you're performing with them, are you rapping? Are you rapping your songs over, kind of like those ska beats?
Yeah, no. So shout out to Jens Fonocaster. He's my booking agent out there in Europe, and so he had the vision and the foresight to see that this tour, this collaboration, this live collaboration, being on the road together would work. And he hit me up about the opportunity. He introduced the band to me in terms of their music. I understand, like, hey, I'm
Yeah.
thinking this might work. I think I can put you guys together. And he tells me the funny story. All right, it was kind of like an unlikely uh, duel. You know what I'm saying? To go out there. I'm doing my gig. When I say I perform with them, meaning I'm opening up for them, but I'm
Yeah.
doing my songs, right? So I'm rapping like I always do, and I'm rapping over the tracks that I always do, and and then they're doing their thing, and it's their crowd, you know what I mean, and they're adored by their fans and all of that. And for me, it's like coming, like I said, it's a moment of discovery, and I'm like, ooh, I know they don't really know me at all, which
Yeah.
is kind of cool in a lot of ways. Like you get that feeling that you haven't really had in a while.
Yeah.
And you see how this is gonna go. And then you just go out there and you do your thing, man. And you come to find that by the end of the show, they're just like, oh shit, I didn't really, never heard of you, didn't know you were even coming out. How much is that vinyl? And you're like, yeah,
Yeah.
appreciate you very much. You know what I mean? But yeah, so, but I'm rapping over my own stuff. And you
Yeah.
know what? We became friends. You know what I mean? Uh, the whole band they're a excellent group of cats. We all vibe and vibe really well together. So that energy is super natural, man. When we're out there, we're just kind of vibing, kicking it. You know what I mean? We do our thing, and it's been in a way where they've invited me on stage, so that's always fun. You know what I mean? When you get to
Yeah.
get down with the live elements of musicians and stuff on there with you, there's another energy that just kicks up.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm having the time of my life, man. Can't really lie. It's been great.
Yeah. And then I saw that you're going to Colombia.
So all of a sudden, right, like boom, I just hit that yesterday. So that is, man, and I'm going out there on November 15th. So Bogotá me están preguntando que si es de verdad, y si es cierto, we're going to be going out there, myself and Sinful, el Pecador of the Mexicans. So we'll be going out there in November 15th, Bogotá. That'll be my first time there.
That's dope.
I had never been. I get a lot of, I get a lot of requests and a lot of emails and messages from out there, but this will be my first time going out there in person. So definitely very much looking forward to that. That just transpired yesterday, so I can say officially that yeah, that's going down.
That's
I'll
so
be seeing
dope.
Mexico again pretty soon. I'm hoping to get back to Mexico this year as well. I'm staying busy, man. I'm staying busy on the live tip, and that's where we're at. That's where we're at
Yeah.
right.
I think that increasingly, as we enter music through the streaming services is basically free, right? And now with AI, you have all this like digitization of everything. I think that live show, that human interaction, people being around people and people seeing something that's not on a screen, right? Because we're like this all the time now,
Yeah, man.
is going to increase in value and in a way that is maybe reminiscent of the 60s, right? You see like in like movies from back in the day, the way people adored musicians to go to a live show, the energy, that community.
Right,
We kind of, it wasn't really like that through the 2000s, right? And
right.
now with all of this hyper digitization of everybody just stuck on their phones, everybody can do anything now because you just put a prompt into AI and it makes a little, it'll make a thing. To see a real human bring a skill set like in a catalog and
Mhm.
perform the skills that an MC has, that a DJ has, right? That a
Yeah.
breakdancer has, that a muralist, a graffiti artist has. That value is going to skyrocket.
Oh man, absolutely. It's already, yeah, you're right. I mean, it's already extremely valuable. I mean, the thing about, you mentioned the DJs, number one. You cannot overlook the DJ. You know what I mean? That element in hip hop should never be overlooked. It should never be passed by. Every show that I ever do, and even in Delinquent Habits, the DJ is such a huge part of that event itself. And so all credit to the DJs that keep that element of hip hop in it. You know what I'm saying? And so they get sometimes the biggest, the highlight of the night, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Where they get that moment and they do their thing. Because they got the ability to control a crowd that way, whether it be with mixing music or just dropping cuts or just do something real fierce on the turntable. So that's an element that I definitely value. I try to have it, in all my shows whenever I can. It's not always possible that I can have that element in there. But you mentioned a very good point about that, and back to the live element in general. Um, that's one thing that we kept on doing as Delinquent Habits since the moment, since inception, right? Since Tres Delincuentes blows up, and all of a sudden we have the opportunities to travel the world and get in front of a lot of people, tens of thousands of people, sometimes close to 100,000 at once, and that live performance, it's like that validation, right? Like, so it's cool. This is a dope song, and it's a hit, and it's doing real good on radio, and this, that, and the other. But now what? You know what I'm saying? Like, can you do this? Can you do
Yeah.
this in front of this many people? Can you do this in front of people that don't know you at all, never heard of you, maybe never heard of Thresh? And I'll tell you, like, the very first, one of the early tours, very first tours we ever did at that time in the early '90s or mid '90s was a Korn, Delinquent Habits, Korn, and Limp Bizkit. And I always call that, our boot camp tour, where we had to learn how to do a whole lot of shit like real quick. You got one album, you got one hit. Is the rest of the album solid? What are you gonna do? You know what I mean? You're gonna just do your thing, but these people don't know you necessarily. Not everybody,
Yeah.
especially then. The genres weren't exactly, kind of merged yet
Yeah.
necessarily. I wouldn't say they are exactly now, but people know of
Yeah.
different genres, even more so now. So back then it was very much, and then you got diehard fans that love a particular band. They're not always really receptive of an opener. They're like, oh man, we're just waiting for the
Right.
band. When are
Right.
you gonna be finished? You know what I mean? So got to learn a lot of how to just get up there and do our thing. And so uh, that was really a cool thing to see that we actually were able to come out and just do what we do and
Yeah.
captivate fans for 20, 30, 40 minutes or whatever that is.
Yeah.
But yeah,
Kimo, can
the live thing is the shit. It's for, as it is for the fans, it's the same for the artists, man. It's just it's a blessing to be up there and be able to do it. Even
yeah.
to this day, I'm like, shit, I'm still doing this thing.
Yeah, you are.
Hey,
Yeah.
I wanted to tell you, I appreciate you reaching out because I know that, we've been in communication here and there over the years. Like, I know of
Yeah.
you for a long time. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Sometimes I have to think back and be like, I gotta remember how this all started. But I definitely appreciate you reaching out and giving me the opportunity to sit down and speak with you, man.
Thank you, my brother. I've been, like so many people, right? A fan of your music. I've listened to your voice, now for so long. It's truly an honor. I first connected with you back in the day with the Latino hip hop website. We're talking, this is back, Delinquent Habits, and then later in the early era, because your solo career now is like 20 years in, you know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Right? So it's like, it's truly like your solo career is other people's entire careers, right?
yeah,
To include
yeah.
the hits and everything. So that whole early part of your career. So it's an honor to connect with you. I think that people are probably interested in knowing, if you're willing to go back just a little bit, like, how you fell in love with hip hop, kind of like when you started, right? Before Tres Delincuentes, before you blew up, right?
Mhm.
Before we knew that you were going to be performing in Germany, performing in Colombia, performing with Cypress Hill. What was those early formative hip hop experiences where you first started writing, picking up the pen? If you could
Mhm.
take us back and give us some of that background story.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. So I mean, for me, music was always a big part of growing up. I was always around it. It was always around me, whether it be from my parents playing music in the car, obviously, records. I remember we had stacks of, a lot of 45s. My
Yeah.
mom had 45s, a bunch of them. Vinyl records, 8-track tapes. So music was always around. Um, I remember hip hop, making its way, from the East Coast, working its way out this way. I think maybe by the time I'm, you know, fifth grade, sixth grade, something like that. But I'm just a fan. I've always just been, a fan, a consumer of the music, a fan of the music. And I think somewhere around the age of maybe 14, I started really, thinking about, really what was being said in music, what hip hop was doing, like what what rap was doing, like how powerful, I guess,
Yeah.
it was, that vehicle, what I mean, that way of like expression. And so I think for me, what I wanted to do was really express myself. It was about, all right, I think I can, I want to put things in words like this, like they're doing, but I want to do it my way. I'm not going to talk really necessarily the same storylines or the same message, but I think I can do this. I have something to say, and I wanted to do that. And that's where it was for me. I think I can remember a time, literally, working out in my mom's garage, basically, which was at that time doubling as like my bedroom.
Yeah.
Uh, and like I was staying out there, but also there was like weights and stuff. I could remember like probably listening at the time to NWA or
Yeah.
something at that time. So by then I'm already like probably in my teens or something. And I remember just, you know, probably I can remember just being in there doing some curls or whatever, being like, yeah, like I want to do that. You know what I mean? I want to write or whatever. And I think that's where I decided I wanted to start writing. And so I did start writing. When I wasn't writing with a pen and I had like a part-time job, or I was driving around, I was delivering, office equipment or whatever one of my first jobs was.
Yeah.
Putting on K-Day, turning that up and like waiting for like a good, like, because they didn't always play. It wasn't always hip hop. So it wasn't always rap songs on K-Day, but they
Yeah.
were playing the music that we like. And then they would drop in like, oh, damn, they're playing that rap. They were playing this dude and they were playing this band, this group. And so I would wait for that to drop in or whatever instrumental piece I can get. And I could remember rolling around with like a little cassette player, just like we do now with our phones. Right now you got the
Yeah.
memo, but back then it was the
Yeah.
memo.
Now it's the memo.
I would be doing a lot of writing as I was driving, take little pieces. I can hear the pause and the stop, constantly, kind of like when you used to do a mixtape on a dual cassette
Yeah.
boombox, right? Um, those are the early days of my writing and stuff. But at that time, I didn't really have a network. I didn't know producers or anything like that. So
Yeah.
I could remember one of the early times of just trying to find a producer was looking through the recycler, that paper, and then
Wow.
people would advertise like, yo, beats, you know what I mean? Producer, got my own studio by the airport, LAX. I'm like, hey, so that, you know what I mean? I'm trying to record a song, you got a studio, whatever. I remember that literally being my first time ever recording was at this dude named Alon. Alon, I don't know his last name. It was just some dude that I hit up out the paper, and he had a keyboard and a studio at his pad. And I drove out, booked the studio session, went out and recorded my first song over the Commodore's brick house that we replayed. Bum, 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 bum. Like that. I was like, oh yeah, what probably was one of my favorite songs at the time. And so we redid that. That was the background. That was the genesis of what this song was going to be. And then I had my little song, and I remember recording that. And from there, I just kept going. I just kept on writing. You know what I mean? I kept on writing. Try to get better at it, and just started meeting more people in the game, and eventually got got a small demo. It was a demo,
Yeah.
and then everything just evolved from there. You know what I mean? This was all before meeting anybody, before meeting before meeting Sindog or Cypress, before meeting Eyes, before any of that. It was just a delivery boy wanting to say something. You know what I mean? Working out, saying, I got to say something. I think I have something important to say. It wasn't as important at the time. I think it was just stuff, but yeah, that's how it began for me.
That era of you kind of booking your own studio time and putting together, those first Kemo the Blaxican songs. How long was that era before the Delinquent Habits era?
I would say about maybe like 4 years, somewhere
Wow.
around there. Not that long, but
Yeah.
about 4 years of just uh, just getting into the game, just kind of understanding it. I had never been into a studio. I never even knew how studios worked. I didn't understand how, how basically there's layer. I mean, I didn't understand tracks. I didn't understand there was going to be this many tracks eventually. And, none of that.
Yeah, yeah, how to
You know what I
punch
mean?
in and how to do the chorus and how to like do the effects you do with vocals, all of that stuff you got to
Yeah,
learn
no,
it.
I didn't understand any of that. I mean, surprisingly enough, I did understand that a hook. There was a hook. So
Hmm.
I always did write in a way where I understood that eventually there's just going to be this part that is the thing, and try not to write a run-on sentence like too long of a verse, but at the same time it didn't really matter either, right? I just kept on. I would write, and then if a verse was, I found that it was real long, I would find good places to kind of like break it up. But it was about 4 years of that, somewhere around there, and I eventually got a demo tape into Sendog's hands. Somebody that I knew, who I worked with, knew him, and he thought that my stuff was decent enough to present it to Sendog, right, of Cypress Hill, and that was probably 91 or two, I don't know, somewhere around there. And
Were
still,
you
that was
already
still,
combining Spanish and English?
I was very little. If I was, I couldn't. Not like now. Not
Yeah.
like now. You know what I mean? It was primarily English with maybe a touch of Spanish here and there, but nothing like it is now. Nothing
Yeah.
like I do now. You
Yeah.
know, or even that I started doing. 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever that was.
Yeah.
No, that came a little bit after. That came a little bit after. Is just I would say like sometimes. I was like sometimes I can't even speak English or Spanish. I would say like because sometimes, but it ain't like I have this extremely high vocabulary in either language, but definitely higher in English. And
I
so,
know what you mean. Like I speak Spanish too, you know what I'm saying? But like when you go to like a Latin American country or you want to read like a book or a newspaper, there's definitely levels to that language. It's a beautiful language. And Spanish
mhm,
is a very beautiful language, a very complicated language. So there's levels to it, for sure.
absolutely, absolutely. And I don't know what level of Spanish my Spanish is. Probably 9 years old. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like a third grader. I really don't know. But I know that there's levels to it, and I admire that though because I admire really really good lyrics. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah,
they don't have to be particularly um, you know, high vocabulary, like, words that make you start sound smart or like a
right.
lawyer's vocabulary. It's not necessarily that, although that could be impressive at times. But just how the words are put together and how you phrase things and how you tie everything together. So I really like listen to the lyrics a lot. But there was a time where, started listening to a lot more Spanish language rap from different countries. And as I started to, because the rap game started to evolve, you know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah,
when when we first came on the scene, there wasn't as much Spanish hip hop,
right,
right?
right.
A lot of bilingual, but never like a whole lot of Spanish. It was coming. It was coming. I ain't saying it wasn't there. It just
Right.
hadn't really made it to the scene yet. It was on its way, believe me. So therefore, as it started to get stronger, I also started to notice like, well, okay, well, if you're going to dabble in this game, you're going to have to really come with it in Spanish if you're going to keep coming with it.
Yeah,
Or find a way to find that balance where, you're doing it your way, it's strong, there's some Spanish in there. Um, Ultimately, in the end, you want to be respected you know, by your peers that are doing it,
yeah,
other people that understand the language. My Spanish is very imperfect. I know that,
right, right.
but I became a fan of that of Spanish hip hop, and I learned a lot from it. So I
Yeah,
started becoming, not only a fan but a student of, Spanish rap and learning more just by listening to other artists from Mexico and Spain, and then
yeah,
different parts of Latin America. I'm like, oh shoot,
yeah,
okay, this is real. Like these dudes,
yeah,
don't pussyfoot your way in around here, if you're gonna dabble in this, you got to be really, really.
They right. There's good writers in Mexico. There's good writers in Spain. Very talented individuals that as it grew, they have their own thing. So right, they're listening to you too, right?
Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, apparently, you know what I'm saying. That's what all the the homies from out there. Like I make my way out there, and I got friends out there, and in the conversations, they let it be known, some of the influence that I may have played on, some of their, inspiration and that kind of thing. So that's appreciated for sure.
Yeah.
Um, and I like to think that what I do is it's just a little piece of like how I do it. It's just my contribution to the game. This is how I do it. I blend it this way. I do English and Spanish. I try to make it seamless. That's always been my
Yeah.
thing. Where I try to the transitions were a big thing. Like how I switch from English to Spanish matters to me.
Yes.
I try not to make it too abrupt, where it's like, yo, I was grooving with you, and then you just threw me off because you
Right.
just you slammed on the brakes and you switched the language. Ese ape, yeah. Like I want to do it like I want that transition to be smooth and not mess you up. Like, okay, I'm still with you right here. I like what you do. I like how that transition was. I don't know what you said, but that shit was smooth, and
Yeah.
so yeah, man.
Yeah, that's there's the people that speak Spanish and listen to your lyrics, but then there's the people who don't, right? And you want them to respect your flow and the tonality of your voice, the beat, how you put the song together, and they don't necessarily know the Spanish lyrics, but you're just an artist creating a piece of art with your music. Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, that's exactly it, bro. That's
that's dope.
exactly it, man.
Growing up, did you grow up, was English the first language, Spanish the first language, both in the household? What was it like growing up? How did you learn to speak Spanish?
Yeah, so growing up, Spanish was my first language, but there was both English and Spanish in the household. Um, my mother, and so like my mother made sure that we grew up learning to speak Spanish. She was bilingual though. She was born in Mexico. She was raised in in Mission, Texas, and she was bilingual. So she can understand. I could speak to her in English and she would understand it. It's not a problem. But her Spanish was there too. And then everybody around me, my babysitters, my grandparents, and all that, they all spoke Spanish also. And so her approach was that English is inevitable. We're going to learn it regardless. So let's make sure that these kids understand Spanish. And so that was my first learned language. And then naturally English, right? Like you're not going to avoid that. That's going to happen. And so in the household, it was English and Spanish, a little bit of both, going all the time. She would say things in Spanish. I might reply in English. I might reply in English and Spanish, a little blend, a little Spanglish. Um, and then, of course, growing up with my pops. Um, so my stepdad's from Guadalajara, and he's been, in my life and my dad since I was, real young, like 7 years old.
Yeah,
So that really kind of elevated my Spanish game even more so. And so it's always been around, And these days he's bilingual, he speaks English and everything as well.
right.
But so all my family, we're all English and Spanish,
Yeah,
it works beautifully. I feel blessed to be bilingual and to speak Spanish. And it's always played a really strong part in my career musically, obviously.
yeah,
Um, I definitely think that the music. I think music would still come out tight, and especially back then in the '90s. But there's no doubt in my mind that being able to blend that in with make it a bilingual song really helped it also
yeah,
become a global thing that it became. And
yeah,
so for a long time, I've always kind of really incorporated that. On my solo stuff, I tend to do a whole lot more Spanish, right?
yeah,
Like then I started really kind of getting, writing my first entire Spanish songs, which I had never really done before, like Somos Trece.
yeah,
That album, that's an all Spanish song that I wrote in 2003, maybe something like that, 2000 something. Those were real good challenges for me to say, all right, let me see if you got what it takes to write a whole entire song in Spanish. Uh, so for me, it was one of my, it's one of mine that I think it's pretty good. I like it.
It's
I
dope.
would say
Yeah.
that's probably
Somos
one of
Tres is a banger.
my favorite Spanish ones. And ever since then, like Quiero Volar, uh, you know, songs like that that are entirely in Spanish, you know, I do value those because I feel like it's a challenge, you know, for myself, kind of testing my Spanish lyricism.
Yeah.
And, you know.
That's dope, bro. You know, given that you're going to Colombia, and Colombia is known and very popular in Mexico, and right now especially for cumbias, right? And given your sound has incorporated horns and the sounds of Mexico and of Latin America for a long time, I'm curious. You know, as yeah, I look at the questions. Kemo, drop more music. Kemo, when's the music coming? Right?
Mhm.
What is your feeling with cumbia right now? Cumbia is really hot, and there's like the darks and the sad boys, and there's all these different types of cumbias. It's popping in LA right now. Um,
Yo,
you
hey,
seem to me
cumbia
like a
band. Hey,
perfect artist.
I'm looking for an instrumental cumbia band that doesn't have a lead singer yet because I need me a band. That's how I feel about it because
Yeah.
it's completely sick what's going on with that movement
It's
right now.
so crazy. It feels like its own it's like a parallel to hip hop. What happened with hip hop, there's a thing happening with cumbia.
Yeah.
The
So
dancing, have you seen the dope dancing? It's so reminiscent of breakdancing.
it's yeah, it's crazy, man. It is really, and I'm not even probably fully aware of all like the nuances that you're talking about. I have that song on my record called La Chinga, which is
Yeah.
kind of like a cumbia bass, right? But I'm talking about, and I think you're talking about the same thing, like this modern rebajadas, like this slow, kind
Yeah.
of crazy dark. And so when I was in Mexico City, like last year, there's a record store out there I went to a couple of times, and they slid me some records and I put that on, man, and it was like really dark, deep cumbia music. And I'm like, what the? I listened to the whole album, and it was just instrumentals. It was like this dark, these voices and stuff in the background. So it lended itself to me. I was like, oh, these are some like pistas that I can actually
Yeah.
write to or get inspiration from. But all I was really feeling was like, man. Now, granted, I've been, you know, always for a long time wanted a live band to
Yeah.
work with more frequently. This just kind of increased that, you know. But so yeah, the movement is incredible. The sound is super dope. And so these are these kind of, you know, you're saying it's reminiscent of like the hip hop movement.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it could find its way where, you know, there's a collaborative, you know, presentations that take place because I think
Yeah.
it could be it's appreciated by the fans, you know. I think they can have similar fan bases that can appreciate it both.
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, it's incredible, man. And the music keeps evolving, man. I mean, the new generation, the youngsters that are doing their thing, they're finding new ways that you like just when you thought it wasn't gonna, you know, what's new? What hasn't been done yet? So it's
Yeah.
been done, right? But there's finding new ways to do it, and that's kind of what everything is with fashion and music and all of that. It comes full circle every 20, 25, 30 years. We're seeing the same stuff come back,
Yeah.
just in a twisted, a new way, right? It's kind of evolved a little. Even with restaurants, I go to some Mexican restaurants now that are not your abuelita's restaurant, but they're serving bomb ass Mexican food with tradition, but I'm inside and I'm like, man, they decorated this like completely different than back in the day it used to be. It's just this more modern way of the presentation, the way the dish comes out. It's this new way that it is. And I mean, you can't be mad at it, man. It's kind of fresh,
Yeah.
some of the stuff. So yeah, I don't know, man. Turn me on to some of these bands. But I try to
Yeah,
just tell
when I come
people.
across one of these dance reels, I'll send it over to you because
Mhm.
there's a parallel with breakdance, and then the whole underground movement they have is very much like the DJ hyping the crowd because they do it's really really dope, and for me it seems um like you're an artist that's perfect for that sound, right? Because already your discography, and then it's hot right now, and I'm like thinking in my head, I'm like, yo, that's Kemo the
Yeah.
Blaxican that he's the but but I'll send you some stuff.
Well,
um
I'm not one to jump on trends. You know what I'm saying? Like, oh, this
yeah.
is hot, so let me get on it. But I would say that it's something that organically I do appreciate. So
Yeah.
if you ever catch me on something like that, just know that it's been brewing for a while. It's not just
Yeah.
got hot.
That's
But
important. No, that's
there's
true.
a band called you know, one that I could remember. I don't know exactly where they're from. I want to say they might be from Texas. They're called Radio Malia. I don't know if they're really big or not, but I've been checking these guys out and I've been listening to their music. And they're one band that I can remember. If you have a chance, check them out. Radio Malia. I like them cats.
Yeah.
No los conozco para nada, but they're dope. You know what I mean?
I'm gonna look
So,
them up. Yeah, I'm gonna look them up. It's interesting because I'm a hip hop head through and through, right? But I'm Latino, and I appreciate all genres of music. And there's something about a beat that sometimes just gets you, right? And I'll be out doing my laundry. I'm over here by Ball Heights, people
mhm,
playing music in their car, and
mhm,
I'm constantly like, yo, that sound.
mhm.
This sound is a this is a thing. This is a thing that's happening right now in LA, in Mexico, in Colombia. It's just a thing that's really popping right now that's very interesting. Yeah.
Yeah. The sound of music right now is very interesting. I feel like it's gone through its progression of, that 90s era and, you got your 2000s. Like it's gone through its progressions. And and everyone will always say, ah, music is, you got some people that'll say they'll find that there's good music out there, and then you got a lot of people that'll be like, there ain't, everything's garbage. You got people that think that way too.
Yeah.
And that, I think it's absolutely like it's always been. You got to go out there and you got to find what's good. There's always going to be garbage, but there's going to be a lot of good music out there that you just got to go and discover if you haven't already. And so I think right now the sound of music is it's new. The people that are being like trendsetters, you know what I mean, like trailblazers. They're not following the trend. They're creating something new.
Yeah.
And then you'll have people that realize like, hey, that's hot. Let me start doing that. And that's always the case anyway, right? So that'll become a hot sound, and they'll jump on that thing, and they'll do what somebody led the way. They started doing it a year and a half ago, and now everybody else is catching up, and that happens. Whatever. What's interesting is how do if you're not making new music, how does the old music that I make like 20 years ago and I'm out there doing it live, like how does that resonate with today's crowds in person when you're also on a bill where maybe there's a lot of new music, and then you bring something old, because you can hear them beats and you're like, man, some of the beats today, you're like, man, they're high powered in a different way.
Yeah.
And you can hear old music and it's the golden era of hip hop. But you also can hear like, is it dated or not? Some of it stands the test of time and it's still good as ever, and it stands the test of time like a great movie does. And
Yeah.
some of it just is it could be like, man, I don't know if it really, holds up the same. Me, I tend to be a fan of just good music in general. I love my old classic hip hop. There's plenty of music that I think I gravitate to it. And stuff that I listened to that came out 10, 15 years ago, I treat it like it's brand new still. I'm just like, yeah,
Yeah.
because then I realized like, damn, I've been doing this thing for like 30 years. So like a 15-year-old song to me is like, damn, 15 years passed already since that shit came out.
That's crazy. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a trip like that, man.
That is. We talked about you recently coming back from Germany and also your performances out there. You have performances coming up in Colombia. Um, is there anything else, coming new that you want to let people know about? Things that, if you want people to, new fans that are discovering you now, where to find you, information that you want to make sure that people get.
Yeah, absolutely. I appreciate that. Definitely, everything Kemo the Blaxican is easy. Yeah, if you look that up, all of my socials and website stuff is like that. That Colombia thing is coming up. Most importantly, I think I want people to know, I've been asked a lot about new music and new material coming. What I've been doing is, you may have seen a couple of videos that dropped recently. I did No Que No not that long
Yeah.
ago, maybe a year ago.
Beautiful video. Beautiful video.
I appreciate that, man. And it just dropped, and that was a beautiful. The making of the video was beautiful because it just happened. We were all at the right place at the right time, and we created a video for a song that had been around a minute. LCL, I just did that about 4 months ago, I think.
Yeah.
Um, so those are what I call like I'm bridging the gap between what's coming. So there is new music coming. Most importantly, is what you should know is if you're asking me if Kemo the Blaxican is dropping anything new, yes. The simple answer is yes. It's coming, and I think that uh, it won't be long. So just stay tuned. I'll start to put more information out about what's coming around. I hope that everybody appreciates what it is, and more than anything, I think people need to just know that I'm extremely grateful and thankful for all the years of support. I really appreciate everybody, following along from, all the delinquent habits years, and especially all the solo stuff that maybe you didn't know existed, and gradually you're discovering that's 20
Yes.
years ago. Um, I'm extremely grateful, man. I really can't thank, everybody enough, the fans enough that have been supporting all these years. So yeah, just know about that. New music coming soon, absolutely. The clothing brands that you guys have seen that I've been doing for a minute, the joint clothing, the joint Marca Fina, these are all things that I hang on to, that I believe in. They're meaningful to me. They represent really important things and to me and what I'm part of. Uh, Wanting to put out their messages, like messages of unity, of being together, and things like that. That's what join is to me. So those things are coming. I touch on them and I step back out because I sometimes kind of bite off too much at once.
Yeah.
I see it. There's a plate. I'm like, I can handle that. I can handle that. But right now, music is the focus, so it's coming. So stay tuned. Definitely, absolutely excited about some new music on its way.
That's dope, Brian. I know a lot of people are happy to hear that. Tell us a little bit about Marca Fina and where people can find that.
So Joint Marca Fina is an extension for my clothing brand called Joint Clothing, which I started in 1998. Joint Marca Fina was like the evolution of that brand, where I felt like it was just kind of a need to kind of evolve it a little bit more. I would say it's a little bit more of an edgier side of Joint Clothing. Also, Joint. It's a brand that I started in '98 that was really surrounded around a unity. I've always been about kind of bringing people together, right? How could I not be when I'm the Blaxican? You know what I mean? The beautiful blend with a beautiful mind kind of approach to things. And
Yeah, bro.
I've always wanted to kind of, see people kind of come together, especially, black and brown unity was always been a
Yeah.
thing that whenever there was tension at the height of those times, I always just was like, man, how can we mend this thing? You know what I mean? How can we help
Yeah.
bridge that gap? So that's kind of how it evolved. And so that's a clothing brand that I've had for a minute. Jointclothing.com, jointmarcafina.com. We'll be coming with a new, what would you call it? Like some new series coming soon. So just stay tuned with that. Big shout out to a couple of people. I wanted to just say what's up to some people.
Yeah.
Jorge Newman. Becoming this is the up and coming director that I've had the privilege of working with recently, and so there's some of the new material that I'm talking about. He's been instrumental, working his magic on that, and I'm not at liberty to speak too much about this project yet. I wish I could, but
Yeah.
I will be soon. But just remember this name, Jorge Newman.
That's dope.
This dude's a real talent. A big shout out to my friends at Southern Clothing. I appreciate you all very much. Also Tribal Gear. I appreciate them very much. Black Flies. Big shout out to my Dead Silence family. Life support, all my cats. Just stay tuned. The Blaxican's working on some things. Not to talk about myself in third person. That shit just came out like that. But I am working on some stuff. And so yeah,
It sounds dope though,
big shout
and
out.
I mean that's what people want to hear. Like, so many people love your music, man. So many, like your solo career, your career with the lingual. You've been a part of our lives. You've been the soundtrack to so many moments. You guys were doing bilingual hip hop. You were one of the first, like right there, like short list, very short list. For me, that's what I remember. You know, for being
Yeah,
a
yeah, no,
Latino growing up, it was like,
we were
whoa.
some of the early ones doing it, that's for sure. But I
Yeah,
gotta give credit to those that did it before me, and there were
yeah,
some. And so you know what, you bring this, thanks for that opportunity, because I've been thinking
yeah,
about this lately. I'm like, and I'm not good about like getting on Instagram and doing a video or whatever, but since you give me this platform, a big shout out to Mellow Man Ace for
yeah.
doing that thing, because that boy came through and he did his thing, man. He kicked open those
He
doors
did.
to where we were like, what? ¿Qué es esto? You know what I mean? This was something different. Of course, Kid Frost, you know what I mean? OG Frost, big shout out to him. Did it before we did.
Yeah,
Lighter Shade of Brown doing their thing. You know what I mean? There was people
yeah,
in my hometown. There was a group called Norwalk's Most Wanted. Big shout out to them. They were doing it before I even, when I was on those demos. They were I think recording already. Like
wow.
I think I dropped something, and that's a small like a younger early underground group out of the city of Norwalk, which is where I came out.
Yeah,
Uh, it's Jose Perez and Ulysses and them cats. People may or may not know them. If you know them, you do. And if you don't, well, you could probably still find their music out there, man. But
yeah.
they came
Find
out of the
out.
city that I dropped. They did something before we even did, man. I was like, I think I might have still been in high school when they were just out of high school when they were doing their thing. So that's NMW, Norwalk's Most Wanted.
That's
And
dope.
I don't know if a lot of people know about them, man, but I can't front and pretend that like I was exactly, the first to do it. I know I was definitely early and definitely, I would say, did helped evolve it and do it somewhat differently than it had been done.
Yeah,
Without a doubt, yes. You know what I mean? And we're talking about back in the 90s. So yes, it's been a long time. But there was others, you know what I mean?
that's dope.
Others, proper dose, you know what I mean? There was others that did their thing uh, before, and I got to give credit to all of that. Whether you were a fan of Latin hip hop, rap en español, Chicano rap, all of that to me, the best way I could describe it, this game is a mixed martial art kind of game, and everybody was contributing with their deadly lethal styles coming with it, doing it differently, and we were all just like doing our thing. But you have to have respect for all these different
That's
genres
dope.
and the subgenres in the game. And for anybody to step back and be like, nah, that shit was whack or no, whatever, it's like you may not have been a fan of it. If you didn't like it, cool. That's your prerogative. But you cannot take away that it's instrumental to what all of this is today. All of that
Yeah,
was part of it and how it became what it is now and the influence that it's had around the world. If it
yeah,
started here in the States, then all my Chicano brothers and stuff, all the Latino rappers, everybody, they all played a part in that. And
yeah,
so I was inspired by Kid Frost as well as Mello, as well as Cypress. Like all of those are inspirations to me. And what
yeah,
did I do? I started craft my style, right? I take little bits and pieces and try to get good at something. And so maybe I have a style that one would call my own style now.
yeah,
But it definitely came from, bits and pieces of other things that I heard along the way, including oldies and rancheras and cumbias and all of that. So
that's dope.
what it
That's
is.
dope. That's love, Chemo. That's really, so beautiful for you to highlight so many people that came before you that had an impact on you and on this culture, you know. So
Appreciate
that's tremendous. My brother,
it.
it's been an honor. It's been an
My
honor to
pleasure,
have you on
man.
the Cristopolis show to talk about your incredible career, your shows out in Germany, shows coming in Colombia, new music, the video work that's coming, everything, my bro.
It's coming. It's coming,
Yeah.
man. Thank you. It's been a pleasure, man. Thank you for the time. Thanks for hitting me up, and it's been a pleasure to sit here and speak with you guys.
Thank you, my
Appreciate
bro.
you all.
Thank you. Be
Thank you,
with
man.
you soon.
Peace.
Peace.